I'm sure most of you heard about this 2010 film called Despicable Me. It was really popular when it was released on July 2010. Well, I love that film too. Most notably, everyone recognizes the cute yellow creatures named Minions, who serve supervillain-turned-hero Thelonious Crew, and following the film's success, it made 4 sequels, releasing in 2013 and 2017 and another one in 2024. A spin-off prequel film, Minions, was released in 2015, which tell the epic story of the Minions before they met Gru. A sequel to the Minions film, Minions: The Rise of Gru, is scheduled to be released in 2022, following its delays from a July 2020 release following the global COVID-19 pandemic shutting down every cinema and theater in the world. Well, speaking of theaters and cinemas, I used to work at an AMC theater in Northern California up until March of 2020, when the coronavirus hit. The work itself wasn't exactly all that remarkable, up until February of that year. Here's what happened. What happened on this particular day: I was cleaning up Cinema Hall 7, which had just shown Inside Out 2. I swept the uneaten snacks on the chairs, floor, and little crevices in the walls. I sprayed the popcorn and soda-filled air with some air freshening spray, and cleaned up all the soda spills. I was leaving the cinema hall, until I saw what looked to be yellow "Do Not Cross" tape, the tape you would see in a crime scene. The tape was on the door that led to Cinema Hall 10, which previously just had a lock on the door handles. I asked my fellow colleagues if they knew anything about this cinema hall, and they gave me looks of confusion. Sometimes I would get responses like, "What are you talking about?" and "I don't know what you're talking about, man." As my curiosity kept rising more and more, I asked the co-manager of the cinema if he knew anything about this cinema hall. Do you know anything about Cinema Hall 10? I asked. "What?" He responded. It was like he didn't know it existed and that I was the only one who knew. Stressed, I lead my co-manager to the door of Cinema Hall 10 and he followed me. I showed him the door of the cinema hall, and he became as pale as a ghost. He told me to follow him into his office, and told me to sit down upon arriving to his office. I sat down and he told me the entire story. He said that, back in 2010, during a showing of then brand new Despicable Me on that cinema hall, a hacker somehow managed to show a disturbing version of the film. Reports say that the moviegoers in Cinema Hall 10 were terrified and one of them was immediately escorted to the hospital due to an underlying medical condition triggered into effect by the footage. It's said that one of the moviegoers told about this horrific experience. He said that the moviegoer told a local news reporter about the movie. The co-manager then opened up his TV and played what looked to be a recording. Keep in mind that this was an older location, and the office still had one of those 2000s TVs with a VCR embedded in it. The recording the co-manager's TV played a recording of what looked to be a news report. The moviegoer then appeared on camera, and said that he and the audience were shown the most scariest thing he had ever seen. He said that in the scene where Gru and Margot were falling when Gru tried to save her from Vector, instead of the minions catching Gru and Margot, the minions failed to save Gru and Margot. Instead, a disgusting splat sound was heard and a picture showed. Scary music began to play as the camera showed Gru and Margot's dead bodies. However, the music sounded like the Game Over soundtrack from the North American version of Sonic CD for the Sega CD, but it was slowed down and it had a haunting filter applied to it. The strange part was, the bodies looked like Gru and Margot's voice actor and voice actress, Steve Carell and Miranda Cosgrove respectively. After showing 10 minutes of Gru and Margot's corpses, the credits roll, except there was no music and not even the mid-credits scene with the minions in a white background. Then the film ended. After it ended, a pair of hands emerged from the bottom of the screen. A minion with blue eyes appeared and screamed so loud that the now frightened audience fled the cinema hall. Look up there for the image of the minion with the blue eyes screaming. The moviegoers reported that the moviegoers in Cinema Hall 10 told them not to watch the film that was shown in that movie hall, as they ran out of the theater with their crying children. The co-manager turned off his TV and concluded the story. He said that, after the incident, no one went into Cinema Hall 10, even when it showed the original, non-hacked version of Despicable Me. One of the parents even tried suing AMC, but the case was settled. with the court finding in favor of AMC, and the company issued a public apology on its official Twitter and Facebook account. The cinema I was working in was forced to close that cinema hall due to low attendance, and also to prevent future incidents from happening again. I left the office and that was that. The next day, I decided to go into that cinema hall and clean it. I was just cleaning Cinema Hall 2, where it was showing Birds of Prey. I made sure no one was around and unlocked the door via the key I had in my pocket, which I had gotten rather secretly by sneaking into the manager's office when he went to go to the bathroom. When the door opened, there was so much dust in the air that I coughed a bit. I opened my flashlight and sure enough, it was empty. I could see leftover popcorn and soda stains all over the floor and chairs. There were even popcorn and soda cups on the chairs. I looked onto one of the soda cups in one of the chairs and I gagged and almost vomited, but was somehow able to hold it in. The cup was filled with soda, but on top of it was some disgusting mold and I swore I saw a plant growing on it. I looked at the popcorn and it was mushy. So mushy that it actually began to melt onto one of the seats. I decided to clean the cinema hall, but it was so dark, I had to hold my flashlight in my mouth to clean the seats. As I was cleaning, I heard the door slowly open and I ducked behind the seats to make sure no one knows I was trespassing in this hall. The figure then left the hall. As I stood up from my hiding spot, then I went to the projector room of Cinema Hall 10. As I went up there, I found something horrifying. It was a body of someone. The body was unrecognizable and when I shined my flashlight onto the person in question, it appeared as if he had partially been eaten by rodents. Then, I heard someone's voice say, "Hey, what are you doing here?" Then, I turned around and saw someone, holding a knife. Horrified, I ran towards the door, which was opened a crack and left in a hurry. I locked the door of Cinema Hall 10. And never told anyone about my experience. I didn't know if that was the hacker from 10 years ago or was it a deranged psycho. I guess I'll never know. If you ever find this cinema hall in this branch of AMC, do not go in there. Seriously, I am begging you.